Void Essence. Until now, we haven't needed too much of it, only being required for a few workstation upgrades and crafting recipes. But with Update 4 changing how we grow the magical plants to now require Void Essence, I feel now is a good time to figure out how we can best get this resource. So, Void Essence. This is dropped from all the Void mobs that spawn during the night, as well as a couple of other mobs. We're going to look into the spawn mechanics for all of these mobs to figure out the best ways to find them and get the essence manually, then also to see if we can create a farm to get it automatically. Now, spoilers, I have managed to create a farm that gives over 150 essence and a void heart or two every single night, completely AFK and only using a few stacks of blocks. We will get to that later, don't you worry. But let's first go back in time and investigate their spawn mechanics so it all makes sense. So, let's see if we can figure out how spawns work. Here is a giant spawn platform above an ocean, surely something's going to spawn on it. But when I use this command, /spawningpopulate, to refresh the spawns, nothing appears, no matter how often I use the command. It is night time, see, look, there's the moon. I just have full bright enabled so you can see. This is what it's like without, so yeah, let's keep that turned on. So why isn't this working? Well, spawns are zone dependent, and the ocean, or should I say zone 0, the crystalline depths, doesn't spawn land creatures, which I guess includes void mobs too. So let's try again, but in a different biome. Here is another similar platform, in zone 2 this time, the desert. So let's refresh the spawns. Okay, so this time we do get a couple of void mobs. But if we look on the ground, they are also spawning just as frequently down here, so I don't think the platform is really helping at all. Even on the ground here, the void mobs aren't really all too common. There's got to be a way to sort of compact their spawning into a smaller area. So a common thing I've heard is that light will prevent void mobs from spawning, so let's test. I have put thousands of these temple braziers down using creative tools, so it's pretty much as bright as it can be. Let's now set it to night and do the /spawningpopulate command again. Okay, so we see that a couple of void mobs still have spawned in this area. There does appear to perhaps be slightly fewer mobs down here, but that could just be coincidence. But it's not massively improving how many are on the top of the platform anyway. So while we were able to reduce the spawns in one area, it doesn't seem that it actually increases the spawns in another area. So my original thoughts were to make a giant spawn platform in the air or on the ground with spikes and rails in this pattern, but like way bigger. Then somehow spawn-proof the surrounding area. But given how few spawns we get, this would have to be one of the largest and most resource-intensive farms ever, so there must be an easier way. So now it looks like a good time to go and have a look at the code to see how they spawn. So this isn't as terrifying as it sounds because Hytale has it built in with the asset editor. Before we go and have a look, just a quick reminder that if you have been enjoying these videos recently, then please do leave a like, perhaps a comment and subscribe. The Hytale community isn't massive, but you've left such lovely comments and support on my videos so far, so let's keep this community alive and thriving. So, if we go to the asset editor, we load up this new window. If you really don't want to see the code, then skip ahead to the time on screen now, or to the next chapter on the timeline. We can then follow the folders on the left hand side through NPCs, spawn, world NPC spawn, and then into void. Now here we have a long list of tiers and NPC numbers. I think each tier represents a zone and each NPC number a different void mob, so let's take a look at this one then, tier 3, night, NPC 3. On the right hand side now we have some drop down boxes, so let's start with the first one, NPCs. Hovering over it we get some info. A required list of role spawn parameters defining each NPC that can be spawned and their weights, which basically means what NPCs are spawning using this code. So upon opening this drop down box, we just have one NPC. Opening that up we see it is spawning for a single mob, the Void Eye. We see it also has a weight of 15, which will be relative to the other void mobs. Ones with a lower weight will be rarer, and ones with a higher weight more common. We also see spawn block set, which defines acceptable spawn blocks, in this case soil, which means it can spawn on any block that is part of the soil category, which I'm guessing includes grass and sand as they spawn in the desert too. But I don't think snow or ice, as I haven't seen them too often in Zone 3 ice sheets. The next box is to do with despawning, and we have a 0 and 1 value between which the mob will despawn. These are 5 AM and 7 PM respectively, which makes sense as these disappear in the daytime. I've checked and that's consistent between all the different types of void mobs in all the zones. The next box is the daytime range, which gives the times during which the mob will spawn. And again we have two values which are the same before but switched around, meaning they will spawn in between 7 PM and 5 AM. In this next box, there is light ranges between 0 and 1 to spawn the mob in. In this case, it allows the mob to spawn in between light ranges of 0 to 8. This would imply that light does in fact prevent mobs from spawning, but from the tests earlier you saw I had an ungodly amount of braziers and still got some spawns, so either it's bugged or I'm not fully understanding this one. If you do understand what's going on here, then please do let me know in the comments. In the next box we have environments. So for this one we have sub-biomes all within 3 zones, so my guess is that tier 3 doesn't mean zone 3, but in fact each zone has 3 tiers of difficulty for the void mobs. So this is tier 3, so the toughest, and these biomes are the swamps and the azure forest for zone 1, the desert and the oasis for zone 2, and the glaciers for zone 3. On screen is a table for all the tiers and their respective biomes from each zone. As usual, I'll provide a document you can view and download from the link in the description. That will have all the information I've gathered from the code laid out neatly so you can find it for yourself more easily. Now lastly, and most interestingly, there is a moon phase weight modifier, which will modify the spawn weights for each void mob depending on the moon phase, which has 5 stages. Stage 0 is the full moon, and then it gets smaller and smaller until phase 4, which is the new moon. It then jumps back to a full moon on the next night, which is not how the moon works in real life, but oh well. Each of these mobs has different initial weights and different modifiers to each other, and also differs across biomes. I've summarised it on this table here, which again will be downloadable from the same spreadsheet in the link in the description. So, if you're going out hunting for mobs, you'll want to consult this chart to find when is best for you. If you just have basic gear and want to stick to the easy mobs, then hunt during the first few moon stages. Whereas if you want more essence and even more hearts, then you want to be in tier 3 biomes during a new moon, where 29% of the spawns will be void eyes. So that's helpful information for hunting these down manually, which, may be helpful enough for you, but nothing that will massively help with making a farm, as from what I can tell, only a few mobs can spawn in a given area, so no matter how much spawn proofing we do, whether that be using light or blocking all soil spawn locations, we will only get a single mob or maybe 2 into a farm. So let's look at some other options then. The next thing that came to mind are the Outlanders. Some of the Outlanders drop Void Essence when killed. I think it's the Outlander cultists who are the ones who throw the daggers, the giant brute ones, the priests and the sorcerers. They spawn in good numbers at the Outlander forts like this one, particularly in the main hall. So these spawn differently to the Void mobs, spawning via spawn markers, which we can see here. If we put spikes onto these positions, then when they spawn back in, they'll be killed automatically for us. Then we can lay minecart tracks down and ride through to pick up the loot. This would work very similarly to the iron farm I made, so feel free to check out that video next if you've not already seen it. It will help understand how spawn marker spawning works, as I've sort of gone through it quite quickly here. We will need to wait 1 day after they die before they will respawn, which is what we can see from this table in the asset editor for the Outlander Sorcerer spawn marker, but we must get at least 85 blocks away before they'll respawn, which we can see from the code here as the exclusion radius. So we would need to lay a minecart loop all the way out to here, which is quite far out. If we were to build something like this, we'd get about 10 Void Essence a day, as well as some Shadow Weave scraps and occasionally these Outlander daggers, which can be salvaged into cobalt. So it's not a bad farm, as it does also give other things, but not brilliant if you want lots of essence, or if you need hearts. This layout of tracks I've put here isn't perfect, I've missed those essence there, but you can easily make a better pattern with the rails. Just follow the same rules as I laid out in the Iron Farm video and you shouldn't accidentally delete the spawn markers. So of course we could go to the Dread Wade, which is an excellent source of void mobs and by far the densest population, and probably where most of you have already considered farming for void mobs. It's a lot of fun, especially using up some grimoires and having your own little personal army, but even with good gear, it's still quite dangerous. Off this run, which I nearly died on, I did come back with 94 essence and 1 heart, so it's pretty good. But for the cost of 10 adamantite, it's pretty costly, considering that it can be gotten for free at night time. But I have one more idea up my sleeve that I want to test. The Void Eyes are a great source of essence and hearts, dropping multiple essence and roughly a 1 in 7 chance at a heart. Plus, they're so easy to kill with a bow from range. But what if we left them alive instead? Hear me out. So, you may have seen that when you get close to one of these floating eyes, they summon a bunch of crawlers on the ground that can then come after you. So my question is, if we kill these crawlers, will the eye respawn more? Okay, so not immediately. But what if I lose line of sight with it, it will then lose aggro, and then once it sees me again, will it re-aggro and spawn more? Yes, it does. Okay, awesome. We now have a method to continually spawn more crawlers. This is something we can work with. So even manually, we just need to go round a cliff or something and then come back, which is easy enough for manual farming of essence. And the crawlers, though only 1% of the time, can also drop hearts, so we will get void hearts as well. We just need to figure out a way to do this automatically and safely. Safely being the key part. I think it's now time to show you the farm I have. So thanks for staying this long to learn all about the void spawning mechanics and not skipping straight to this section. Right, here is what I like to call a void reactor, and it gives multiple stacks of essence per night and even a few void hearts. This is the farm that I've built myself in my survival world, but I'm in a creative copy here so that we can have full bright on and can actually see what's going on, as we have to use this farm at night and it is very dark. So this works by having a trapped void eye in this box, but there's a few details that make this farm work, so let's cover those. Then you'll be able to build one for yourself. So I guess the main part is, how do we get the void eye and how do we stop it from escaping or despawning? So we get the eye by setting up a teleporter inside the cube and then luring one through a second teleporter that is linked to it. This is by far the hardest part, as the void eyes like to stop just before they go through the portal, but with good armor and enough time and plenty of food to keep you alive, you should be fine. Now we can use what we learned previously, making sure to hunt for the eyes on days that the moon phase is favourable, which, if you want lots of void eyes, is a tier 3 biome on a new moon. Using the teleporter to get the eye is also important, as it modifies the behaviour of the mob a little. This way the eye doesn't try to leave the box at all, it just sort of sits there. It's also important to kill any of the remaining crawlers that were spawned before the eye was captured, or it won't spawn anymore no matter how far away the crawlers are. So the next part of the farm is this pit of spikes with the rail track going through it. This kills the crawlers automatically where their drops are in range for us to pick up, while we zoom through on a minecart, moving way too quickly for anything to hurt us. The spikes up at the top help to kill the crawlers more quickly, increasing the rates of the farm. The final part of this farm is the loop around the wall here, which is designed to lose aggro from the eye and then regain aggro once you're in the pit. This will cause more crawlers to spawn. So yeah, that's the farm. Quite simple once it's explained and not too complex to build at all. I mean, I built mine in about 10 to 15 minutes. I then spent 40 minutes actually capturing the eye, but we don't need to tell anyone that. So, some important things to bear in mind with this farm. The most important being, only load this farm at night time. If the farm is in a loaded chunk between 4 AM and 10 PM, the eye will despawn and you'll need to get another one. So when using this farm, maybe keep the F7 screen open and you'll be able to see the time on the right here. Be sure to teleport out of there before 4 AM, I like to leave at about 3:30 just to be safe. And be sure that where you're teleporting to is far enough away for the farm to actually be unloaded from the map. My base is many thousands of blocks away from the farm. Another thing to note is that occasionally the eye may lose interest in you and it won't lock back on. If this does happen, just sort of get out the minecart and stand right in front of it for a bit. If it doesn't see you still, go into the box and it'll almost certainly see you and spawn some crawlers, then it should fix itself. If it still isn't working, unload and reload the farm by teleporting away, waiting a few seconds, and then teleporting back again. And that should make the eye re-aggro again. You may also find that a crawler glitches out and no longer takes damage from the spikes. If this happens, just kill it manually and the eye will respawn some more. So this is a single reactor, and each night I get between 150 to 200 void essence and between 0 and 2 void hearts. And it can be done fully AFK just by holding down your W key in the minecart. But just make sure you do not let it become daytime. But there's no reason why you can't chain multiple of these together like I've got here in creative. The rates of this would be extortionate, and it's technically doable in survival. But you'll need to capture a lot of eyes, and if for some reason they do end up despawning, you'll have to get all of them again, which is an insane amount of effort, and for that reason, I recommend just a single-eyed void reactor, unless you need hundreds and hundreds of void hearts. I must say I am very happy with this farm. It is the first one to actually get hundreds of drops in a day and not have to rely on the daily respawning mechanics that make Hytale farms so slow. This is definitely my best farm yet, and it has given me so many ideas of how to use a similar farm for other types of mob spawning mobs. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you'll find getting void essence so much easier now, whether it's knowing the right time and biome to look for them manually, or whether you'll be building a void reactor or Outlander Farm. I'd be interested to hear what you think the best option for you would be down in the comments below. If you enjoy my videos, then please do subscribe to the channel to be notified of my future videos and help the channel grow and reach more people. So thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Goodbye.